After learning that this administration wants to send more troops into harm's way without proper protection, and that it wants to cut funding for those veterans who return while hiking their health care fees and drug payments. If we were to learn that hundreds of wounded American soldiers back from Iraq are forced to endure substandard care in shoddy, rundown facilities, maybe it shouldn't be so shocking. But in our third story tonight, it is shocking and offensive, and an indictment of the political hypocrisy that has been substituted for the absolute mandate presented to every American government by President Lincoln: to care for him who shall have borne the battle and for his widow and his orphan. A mandate the current administration is ignoring. Reporting for the Washington Post, NBC News, and MSNBC is the Post's Dana Priest.
Tucked away in a northwest Washington neighborhood is a former hotel the Army simply calls Building 18. It's an unlikely place to house injured soldiers in the nation's capital. But the respected Walter Reed Army Medical Center, just across the street, is overflowing with the wounded from 5 years of war in Afghanistan and Iraq. So for some of the 700 outpatients, Building 18 is now home. Walter Reed clinical social worker Joe Wilson.
So they had to do a quick renovation, which was very quick and very cursory, that didn't necessarily address all of the issues that you'd want to address if you were building a barracks.
Many soldiers living here are being treated for brain injuries and psychological stress. They've been promised the best the nation can provide.
We owe them all we can give them.
But as a Washington Post investigation found, conditions here are far from ideal. Mold and peeling wallpaper, shower rot, mice and cockroaches. Walter Reed staff members and outpatients told the Post that conditions here at Building 18 are symptomatic of a system overwhelmed by more injured soldiers than the Pentagon expected. Small matters can become huge obstacles to injured servicemen trying to recover. Marine Sergeant Ryan Groves lost a leg when a rocket-propelled grenade exploded near him in Fallujah.
You know, we're missing legs, arms, brain injuries.
For Groves and others, reporting to a supervisor meant an awkward trek around 3 buildings. He says there's a ramp that would shorten the trip, but it's too steep. Filling a prescription requires an even longer trip. Psychiatric treatment is clear across Post. And at the end of the day, a long trip home uphill. But his larger complaint is that his military supervisors didn't treat him like a patient.
They made me feel like on a regular basis, like I was being a lazy, weak, poor excuse for a Marine.
Soldiers can tend to feel disenfranchised from the system. They begin to resent the system. They'll withdraw. They'll not seek out services.
No one is complaining about the quality of medical care at Walter Reed. Most say it's top-notch. But 65% of the troops pulled by the hospital last March said their experience as outpatients had been stressful. As for Building 18, Army officials told us they started an aggressive campaign to deal with the mice infestation last October, and it's now at a manageable level. They also say they will review all outstanding work orders in the next 30 days, and they've added more social workers, case managers, and platoon sergeants to better address the needs of outpatients. But for soldiers and Marines trying hard to recover, it's another battlefield, here at home. Dana Priest for NBC News, Washington.
Ironically, thanks to medical advances in the field, the Iraq War is yielding a far higher ratio of wounded to fatalities. In other words, had this war been fought just a couple of decades ago, the fatality totals would be much higher. And on the flip side, we would have expected far fewer serious injuries, meaning that today, far more of our troops require better care than they're obviously getting. Let's bring in Iraq War veteran John Soltz, now chairman of the Political Action Committee, VoteVets.org. John, thanks for your time tonight.
Oh, yes, sir. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Is the Washington Post account of the outpatient conditions at Walter Reed consistent with the accounts you're hearing from around the country?
Well, you know, sir, I think the Washington Post piece, it speaks for itself. Walter Reed is in a specifically, different position than some of the other outpatient places around the United States Army and the Department of Defense. Last year the Republican Congress decided they were going to brack a lot of military installations around the country, which means base realignment and closure. Walter Reed, it came up on that list. So I think, you're seeing the effects of that policy, which is, why are you going to fix the paint and clear the mice out of an institution that's closing? I think the second striking, thing about this piece is that this is actually part of the Department of Defense, that this is not the Veterans Administration, which we know is woefully underfunded. The DOD is responsible, for these soldiers until they leave active duty. So basically the same administration that brought us no body armor and no up-armored Humvees is the same administration that just brought us mice at Walter Reed, and their support for the warfighter is abysmal.
Even if this country had to pay full price at private hospitals so these guys, our neighbors and our friends, could get the care that they need at full price, no insurance, could the cost possibly amount to more than a microscopic fraction of the billions we've seen vanish down the rabbit holes in Iraq?
No, sir, not at all. You know, VoteVets.org, we did this, you know, this big commercial with body armor, and we blew up the body armor, and, you know, it cost me $1,000 on eBay to buy the piece, and when my unit went to Iraq, you know, we were cross-level on plates, you know, we didn't have up-armored Humvees. It took public embarrassment for that. So the tactical equipment, it's actually not that expensive. And what makes this so shocking is the money is there for the Pentagon. They get what they request. They get the supplementals from Congress. So what this is an administration that's dedicated to the high-end corporate contractors, you know, the high-end weapon systems in the sky, the super-duper missile defense systems that alienate our allies. You know, these are the same people that are making $40 million a year in their corporate contracts. And that money's coming into the political system on one side. And one of the really things we do at VoteVets is we try to fight for the warfighter. And, you know, in this specific case, there's no reason why we can't spend, you know, the small money on the regular warfighter when we're spending the large money on weapon systems that aren't making a difference on the war on terror.
Where is the protest over this? I mean, we've heard this political nonsense about Iraq veterans being spit on or symbolically spit at, and claims withdrawn, and a huge political hubbub made over this. Where are the Republicans speaking about the treatment of these maimed Americans? And where are the Democrats in their protest on this? Where is that? Why is there no outrage about this extraordinary circumstance?
You know, I think this is a larger issue. A lot of people think supporting the troops right now is putting, you know, a $3 yellow magnet made in Hong Kong on the back of their Hummer and saying they support the troops. So I think, you know, that debate, it's been absent for a long time. People rather flip the channel than deal with the war. You know, as for the Republicans, I mean, they just presented another budget to the, you know, the president just, you know, did a new budget that slams the VA 2 years down the road. It was woefully underfunded last year by $2 billion. As for the Democrats, I think we're seeing movements in this direction. You know, Congressman Murtha's plan here is basically not to let more guys go to Iraq unless they're trained properly, unless they're equipped properly. So this is the first time we're actually seeing oversight from Congress, and I expect to see that. And there's no reason why the President and the Secretary of Defense, who controls this facility, shouldn't have an immediate investigation. And Congress should demand hearings immediately on this, because our troops deserve the best, and they deserve, you know, support that's worthy of the sacrifice they're making in this war.
To protect he who has borne the fight. It's shameful. There's no other word for it. John Soltz, Iraq vet, chairman of VoteVets.org. Our greatest thanks for your time tonight, John.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.